ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. My name is Joe Emilio. I'm your host, and with me tonight, once again, is Koketso. It's good to have you back on the show, buddy. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I hope Arsenal's about to win as I'm here instead of supporting my team in person. But priorities, right? Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
I'd rather be here.
Thank you so much. I'm not a very big football fan, so I couldn't care less. But thank you. I know that football fans do take football very seriously. So thank you very much for being on the show. And yeah, last time you were on the show, we spoke about the uh, some of the, I don't know, conspiracy theories that were running around the whole Zuma riots in KZN and stuff like that, and we were dissecting it. It was a lot of fun. So
Yeah, yeah.
now I wanted to get you back on. Sorry, wanted to get you back on, and let's talk a bit about the elections, man, because things are getting hectic, things are going crazy.
Yep.
Nobody knows who to vote for, and I'm not saying that you should, tell people who to vote for or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, what do you think the landscape is like at the moment? Who do you think is going to come up top in these elections?
I think it's still very difficult to topple the ANC in their strongholds. And by stronghold, any area in the country with a significant township population, I believe, or let me say in most of the country. I mean, if you take Gauteng, for example, right, you've got Gauteng, it's a few municipalities in there, but it's basically split up into, if you look at the big ones, there's obviously City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni. City of Ekurhuleni, it's largely made up of primarily township areas spread out between, pretty much just after Kensington, you get into Bedford View, all the way till the provincial border with Mpumalanga going eastwards. That's quite a big area, and it goes far south as well into Alberton, Germiston, Boksburg, Brakpan, Kempton Park. So it's quite a big area, and that's Ekurhuleni alone. And you'll find a similar thing with Tshwane if you consider, you've got Mamelodi on one side, Atteridgeville on the other side, Shoshanguve, right up to Hammanskraal. Then you've got City of Johannesburg with what we know is quite a massive Soweto population as well. So any area with a significant number of township-based residents, I think, is almost guaranteed to secure a hell of a lot of ANC votes. So it's very, very difficult to topple that. So yeah, I mean, given that fact, I think I see the ANC winning most of those, and that's just how Deng I mentioned. For the other parties, you can't ignore that elephant in the room. I do believe Herman Mashaba is primarily going after the DA's voter base, and he's got a strong case there as well. So he's likely going to chip away at DA voter base, maybe a little bit of the ANC's voter base. We don't know. Remember, they've never been on the ballot before, so we actually don't know what people's sentiment is. We're taking wild guesses here, but until we actually tally up the votes, yeah, we've yet to see if his messaging or Action essays, Action for South Africa's messaging actually resonates with a lot of the populace. But yeah, I mean, we'll find out. But also, don't forget about all these minority parties as well. Some of them have taken wards from DA and ANC, etc., in these municipal by-elections. Your Patriotic Alliance, your Al Jama, these smaller parties are having somewhat of an impact. But again, they're chipping away votes at primarily the DA. Good, you can say, is a smaller party as well, also chipping away votes at the DA. So yeah, I think that's where the real battle is. I don't see the ANC being dethroned anytime soon, even in a local government election. But the DA might, yeah, they might be the biggest losers here. But we'll find out.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's surprising to hear you say that because I think the ANC is gonna lose out big time in it because I mean we saw last a few weeks ago, or was it last week, where Cyril went out into, I think, I don't know, somewhere, and they told him to footsec, which was
Yeah.
beautiful. They said you only come here when it's election time and you give us shirts and you promise us all this stuff, but you're not doing anything.
Mm,
So there's a lot more noise of that. I think two places where that happened to him. The other day, he
yeah.
told people, "Shut up, you're drunk." to the crowd because they were getting unruly.
Yeah.
And, and they had placards saying, Futsek ANC. Um, so I think the ANC is worried. If I'm honest, I do believe what you say is right. Like in the strongholds, like for example Soweto. I mean, the ANC just basically paid the bill for the electricity there. So obviously that's buying votes.
Yeah.
So we know, okay, Soweto's probably going to vote ANC. But I think we'll be surprised. I do agree with you as well. Action SA. I think they're the wild card in this election. I don't think they're very popular in Western Cape. I don't know about
Mm.
Eastern Cape or KwaZulu Natal or anything like that, but Western
Yeah.
Cape, I can see there's not a lot of noise about them in this area, from what I can tell. But I think they'll be a wild card in Johannesburg for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. But here's the other thing, Rod. Going back to the solution, the ANC is the party that's uniquely positioned to be able to make that promise of we will pay your electricity bill. Because they're governing in the city at this current moment in time. So if it comes from them, it's a lot more credible than someone else saying, listen, for me, they're actually now coming out and saying that we're already in power, but we've got these elections. Give us a couple more years and we'll get it done. You can argue that maybe the other parties aren't stupid enough to make such a promise in the first place. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm also kind of more interested in, maybe let me bring this up, right? If you look, the reason I don't really want to write off the ANC is because even though Cyril might be, crusading all over the country, campaigning on behalf of his party, of course. Right. Yeah, you do see a lot of people that are, dissatisfied with ANC service delivery, etc., etc. But those people aren't necessarily going to queue up on election day and go vote for someone else. To me, that just says that perhaps these are the kind of people that aren't going to go and vote and just, contribute to the growing number of people that don't participate in elections. So yeah, and that's obviously low hanging fruit for some of the other parties. But yeah, I see a lot of that in that these are people who aren't going to vote in anger, of course. And we know that will just that doesn't necessarily mean that the ANC will lose its percentage vote in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, it's quite interesting to watch. The other thing though, as much as Cyril gets booed off in some places, in others, people are clapping for him. Cyril has the unique ability of going to any corner in the country and talking to people in their native language. Very few politicians can do that. He's one of those. He goes to Free State, he
True.
addresses crowds in Sesotho and in isiZulu. In Mpumalanga, he's going to address people in Sepedi and Siswati, etc. He goes to Limpopo, he's going to address people in Venda, Chitsonga, Eastern Cape, Xhosa, KZN, Zulu. I mean, yeah, and people like this sort of stuff. Anyone else goes there and starts speaking English, you come across as this unnecessarily highly educated person who doesn't know the plight of people on the ground and what people go through in a shack, etc. So Cyril has that ability, and that can draw a hell of a lot of votes, whether we like it or not. And yeah, it's going to count to his favor. Zuma had, Zulu nationalism on his side. Zulus make up a significant portion of the black population, of course. Cyril has the multilingual aspect of it all. Mbeki, before Zuma, he had the unique ability of saying, listen, I'm the guy Mandela chose to head the ANC after him, and that counted for quite a bit as well. Kgalema Motlanthe didn't have his face on a yeah, it's these small things that you kind of have to consider, but maybe we're overthinking it. I don't know.
No, I think you make a very good point about Cyril's multilingual thing, and that's actually very interesting. Is people, the everyday South African doesn't seem to be able to differentiate or make the connection, rather, that Cyril and the
Mm,
ANC are one and the same. I think the ANC has done a very good job of making it look like Cyril is the savior, and Cyril, it's not Cyril's fault that all this is happening in the ANC. He's actually the one that's going to fix it, which is obviously a
yeah,
PR, like very good PR for them, but I mean, it's a lie. And the everyday South African is kind of falling for it. Well, a lot of South Africans are falling for it. So I just want to bring up this guy's comment here, Angus Rito, saying, "Hi Joe, never voted before or ever," which is something you were just talking about. I'm 48, but recently registered. Definitely will never vote ANC. Question: who the hell is worthy of my vote since they're all crap?
Okay.
Look, I think people are scared to tell other people who to vote for. But what you and I can do, Koketso, is maybe try and look at the options that are there. Because in my opinion, you're either going to do a strategic vote in the upcoming elections now in November, or in the national elections, you're going to be strategic. And what do I mean by strategic? There's a lot of people who say I'm going to vote DA just because they're the largest opposition to the ANC, and my goal is to just dethrone the ANC. Yes, DA, there's not a lot of people who like DA. There's a lot of things that people hate the DA for, but we've had 27 years or 27 years of the ANC. We know what they're like. DA has run the Western Cape for a very long time. They do a great job. Maybe it's time to give someone else a different chance, and the best person or the best likelihood that we're going to have a different party in charge is the DA, because they already have a big voter base, so to speak. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe, okay, to go back to that original question of who do you vote for. So I don't know, maybe I'm in the few who can actually, without giving it much thought, I can segregate who I vote for in a national government election, who actually goes to the National Assembly and Parliament, and then basically separate that from my local government election, where I choose effectively two things: who's going to be my ward councillor, and then who's going to be my municipal mayor. And there is this assumption that people make that, if you're going to vote for I'm going to make an example here. If you're going to vote for Patricia de Lille's Good Party, right, it doesn't mean you're going to take both ballots with that same party. You need to be able to draw that distinction. So with that said, I think it's important, and this message doesn't get put out enough, I guess, but it is important that we recognize that you need to vote for your ward councillor. Who do you want representing you in your community? This could be your neighbor. This is the person who, they effectively your first point of call into any grievance with government or governance in general. So that's very important. And then we get into, now your ward council doesn't set policy, of course. Now we're getting into that second sphere of now voting for your actual mayor. You know, uh, there's things that are actually, there's things that happen in that sphere. Things like how money is spent inside of your municipality. How much is actually apportioned to even to something like fixing potholes, fixing the street lights, etc., etc., etc. So I'm able to make that distinction. A lot of people aren't. So we need to speak to that message. But with that said, though, for a lot of people, right, they don't know who the actual ward council or their representative is at a local level. This is true. It's sad, but it is what it is. And we know it's the case because why else then? I mean, look at the ANC's campaigning. People don't know their local ward councillor, and hence now Cyril has to tag along and go do all of this campaigning. Now, if you look at the DA voter base, I don't think DA voters at large need to see Steenhuisen's face for them to decide they're going to vote for DA. And let's be honest with ourselves here. Cyril knows that the ANC voter base know that he knows that they have to see him so that they can actually get votes. If Cyril was in town, people feel like, okay, the ANC cares about us. Cyril came through. Very similar to how campaigning is done in the States, for example. No one cares about your party representative locally. They only care about the main guy, and Cyril is that main guy, and that's why he's traversing the country. DA, on the other hand, they're making videos, with high production quality. They know their voter base is largely online, middle class. They don't need Steenhuisen going to every corner of the country to say vote for DA. And this also, you can assume that the DA, compared to other parties, they tend to know more about who their local councillor is or their local representative. Some of the minority parties are very good at this. Like the entire Lenasia knows who their representative is, and they're very happy to vote for that person because this is someone who's from the community, etc., etc. So we need to make that distinction. And if your question is, who do I actually vote for? Well, have a listen to who your neighbors are saying about your local representatives from the different parties. Pick someone whose message resonates with you, because this literally affects your day-to-day life. This is the difference between you driving home on a rainy day and getting to your front gate with a flat tire or not because potholes were fixed. That's what it comes down to. Forget the Cyril and Steenhuisen and Malema and all of that. You should be more interested in who's the guy who's in your actual community. And if you don't know the guy, then you can probably assume that, look, they didn't do enough to actually gain your vote.
Yeah, that's actually very well answered. I think it's a very fair way of answering it too. Um, but Angus is saying, does voting actually make a difference to the ordinary, hardworking folk? Oh yes, I think it does. As Koketso just said, it's the difference between getting home with a flat tire or not. Um, it's pretty much
Yeah.
how it is, and it's amazing, Koketso, how now during the elections, I don't know about
Mm.
where you're staying, but where I'm staying, there's been potholes that haven't been fixed for like a year. And now all of a sudden, the potholes are being fixed, new lamps are going up. You see
Yeah.
a presence in the area. It's amazing. Like within a few days, the potholes were had disappeared and stuff. I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing on your side.
Not really. I'm fortunate in that, yeah, my counselor actually puts in the work. I so much as get a power cut, I can go on my local WhatsApp group and say, okay, guys, I'm in this out of town, lights are out. Seconds later, someone's going to confirm or deny that they're out for them. If I see a pipe burst in front of my house, I can actually go on that WhatsApp group, and someone from the council is going to say, okay, cool, have you logged a case yet? No, I haven't. They'll log a case for me, post the case number on the WhatsApp group for everyone to keep track of, and then come back with a follow-up, etc., etc. So my ward councillor works very hard, not just during election season, but throughout the clock. So it's going to be very difficult to dethrone Mrs. Heather Hart from Ward 18 in Ekurhuleni. And I think other parties know this. There
Mm.
are lower hanging fruits elsewhere where it's a bit more closely contested. But yeah, where I live, I don't experience that. But I do imagine that for most of the country, that's not really the case. People are seeing things being fixed. I mean, I
Mm.
had a spat with the Department of, I can't remember, roads and transport or something like that. When they went out and actually tweeted a short video and they captioned it, hot asphalt being delivered. Shows a short video of a truck arriving with asphalt, unloading the asphalt, and there's quite a few men there with shovels ready to pave the road. And my response to that, which got more responses than the actual original, was, you know, like, how low is the bar that we've set that this is actually worthy of an announcement? This is stuff that should be happening throughout the year regularly. It's literally a menial task, but suddenly with elections around the corner, you've got the Department of Roads coming out and saying, hey, look at us delivering asphalt and tarring a road that's been washed away for the past who knows how long. And that's exactly what people's sentiments were, that they're
Mm.
coming out with all these optics because elections are around the corner. But where I live, I haven't experienced that. But if you live in such an area, don't fall for it. If your ward councillor has failed you, vote them out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think to also answer Angus's question about, does voting really help the hardworking folk? Um, yeah, I mean, in more ways than one. It's not just about the potholes. I mean, we joke about the potholes and people fixing this and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I mean, there are some places in South Africa at the moment. that municipalities are really failing, like really failing. People haven't had water in Lord knows how long. Sewage doesn't work. Electricity is failing. And that's all to do with those municipal elections. Most of them run by the ANC. So yeah, it's
Mm.
very important, at least for the Western Cape, I think. If the DA has been doing a better job than the ANC with running municipalities across the Western Cape, then they should stay. I would hate to see the ANC get a hold of the Western Cape. We've already seen some really disgusting things like the 15 million rand stadium that was built.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't laugh because it's actually really sad because it's 15 million rand
Yeah.
reported, but like there's also confusion that it might actually be 22 million rand.
Yeah.
And there was another stadium that I saw on ENCA that was 6 million, looked kind of like the 15 million rand one. But it's like, I don't know. Did you hear about the 6 million rand one?
I saw quite a few other stadiums. I know there was a 13 million rand one in Saldanha Bay that was put out as
Are you
well. And
serious?
yeah, so I saw people making quite a few of these comparisons.
Oh
But the
boy.
13 million rand one, which was put up by a DA municipality there, was, yeah, I mean, it had roofing over the stands. The
Oh
stands
no,
were
it was
quite a bit
properly
elevated.
built.
Yeah, it
Okay.
had an actual track, like yeah, it
No,
had
I'm
gazebos.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm talking about a 6 million rand. So get this: there's a 6 million rand stadium. Okay, built
Mm.
4 years ago, and it wasn't finished because they're waiting to get grass. So they built it, and then like we're gonna get grass, and then it just kind of never happened. And one of the DA councilors MPs found out about it, and it went into it, like the media started to like now because the 15 million rand stadium happened. Now this now the 6 million rand thing. So the media came, and 2 days before the media got there, the municipality hired security guards 48 hours before to make it look as if the municipality had been protecting the not finished stadium for the past 4 years. But when they were grilled a bit, they confessed, no, we were only hired 48 hours ago. I mean, the whole place is
Wow.
dilapidated. Like, there's no toilets,
Yeah.
there's no sinks. There's like the whole place is just. It looks like they put a goalpost in the middle of the bush. Like that's how bad it is.
Mm.
But yeah, again, 6 million rand stadium.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you find these things bizarre as they are, they're actually not that uncommon. Now I'm just reminded of yeah, about a couple of months into COVID when someone received yeah, there was a picture of this handwritten invoice for about 4.3 million rand. Municipal tender somewhere in rural Limpopo, I believe. And 4.3 million handwritten invoice, hey? Like literally, those books you buy at like P&A or any stationery
with
shop
the
for
with the
right.
blue piece of paper or that blue plastic thing, and you
Yeah,
write on top of it and like copies. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It looked like one of those handwritten in yeah, some fairly ineligible handwriting. And it was for 4.3 million rand for someone to basically organize a few people to go door to door and tell people about COVID-19 and remind the village community to wash their hands and, stop touching your face, that sort of thing. 4.3 million rand. Like, imagine, like, yeah. But so, yeah, these sort of things, they're not uncommon, and it's unfortunate that much like what happens at every national election with toilets, the media always finds something to basically use as a benchmark between the different parties. Instead of toilets this time, they're using stadia now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's literally what it's come down to. All it takes is one, and now, yeah, you even have even political parties. Well, this time it's literally ANC versus DA saying, "Hey, the ANC bought that for 15 million. Look what we could do with 13 million."
Yes,
which
it's yeah.
objectively, like, granted, it does look a hell of a lot better and looks to be also procured for quite a significant amount less. But yeah, for me, I just see it as this is really replacing the toilet wars that we usually see come voting time.
Yeah, it's man. Ah, just don't vote ANC, people. Just don't vote ANC or
But
EFF.
wait, let me put this to you. Like, how about this? Because I've had interesting conversations, and there's a guy I sometimes interact with on Twitter. He's actually a ward councillor candidate for where I live as well.
Okay.
So of course he's trying to get my vote too. But there's an argument to be had that someone like your local ANC councillor, they may not necessarily be part of the rot from upstairs. What if you have legitimate people that are literally trying to effect change from the inside out? And we know how the ANC works. They pride themselves in this, that things happen from the branch level. So, what if you do have good men and women who are inside ANC branches and are trying to effect or be the change that they want to see, not just in their community, but also in, I'm going to use their language here, in the movement, you know? They can only do that if they get votes, right? So,
Yeah, but I think while their efforts are noble, no doubt. I mean, I know there are some
yeah,
good ANC MPs, and I know it's shocking for people to hear me say that because this channel is all about Footstick ANC. But there are good people, just like in SAPS. Even though the SAPS is corrupt and falling apart, there are good cops in SAPS, no doubt,
or civil
right?
service in general.
Yeah, no, there's always
Yeah.
going to be good people trying to change it from within. My problem is, or my not my problem, but like how I see it is, you got some rotten apples or whatever, and you got some good apples, but the problem is the barrel itself is rotten. So no matter how many good apples you want to try and put in that system, they're either going to be, I don't know, plucked, if you could, so they'll in other words leave the party because they've gotten so frustrated from fighting against the system that they can see it's not really changing much, or they become
Mm.
rotten themselves. And that's honestly what I believe. I think kudos to those who are fighting the system and trying to make that difference, and I hope you can last and get voted. But I don't know, man. ANC fights dirty. ANC fights dirty. There's political killings and all that kind of stuff. It's a dangerous game to be in politics.
Yeah, it is.
So I don't know. I think the ANC has its own agenda, and some people will fall in line. Some people will benefit from that from what they're doing. The cater system, so to speak. But yeah, for those that are doing a good job, like kudos to you, and I hope you keep doing it. But I don't think it's enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I do kind of feel for them though. But yeah, I was just acknowledging that, they could very well exist, and I believe I'm rational enough to hear them out even. Yeah, should they want to have these conversations, of course, which I'm willing to do. But yeah, perhaps, I mean, we joke about it that well, maybe let me say me and a handful of people I know that perhaps you shouldn't vote for ANC anything until all the people with Robben Island credentials are no longer alive.
That's
That way you
one way
can't
to look at
claim
it.
to be a struggle hero who has fought for democracy, etc., etc. They get away with it. Meanwhile, the PAC had just as much, had just as much invested in that as looks of the PAC. The PAC brings this up every time, of course. Human Rights Day, which is a public holiday. The ANC takes ownership of it, but it's largely you can largely give credit to the PAC for that. But again, I'm a historian. People don't know this. So hey,
Yeah, it's amazing how history has been warped, and I think the ANC is trying to change it and write their own history, which is also dangerous. And yeah, people should be taught the right history, if I could put it that way.
mm,
I do want to touch on some of the stuff that has been happening during the elections, like other things, like the DA. We spoke a bit about the DA now. And what is your opinion on the DA posters that were put up in KZN? How do you feel about that?
Well, firstly, I don't feel they were racist. you know, yeah, I think it was that poster was what you would call targeted marketing. It was specific to that area. They didn't put that poster up in Joburg. Whether it was they or it was the actions of Dean McPherson, that's another discussion, of course. But yeah, I feel it was very targeted marketing. It resonates with the community there. It made national news because people deemed it racist. I don't think it was racist. Do I think those posters should have gone down? No, they should have stayed up because again, it's targeted. It's targeted messaging. Message might not resonate with me, 600 kilometers away from Phoenix, but to someone in Phoenix, that message was for them. Who am I to decide how they should feel about it? So yeah, I don't think they were racist, really. And to watch the media then come out and scream racism and dedicate entire talk show segments to these posters, it was actually quite bewildering. They do that for, you could argue that it is a blunder by the DA. I don't think it was, putting them up, but you could argue that all day. But I don't see, and I mentioned this when I was on Big Daddy Liberty as well, that I don't see the same kind of energy for ANC blunders or EFF blunders, or anyone with a ward, or I don't see the same kind of energy there. And unfortunately, with an ANC blunder, this costs money, our money that we pay, in taxes and the like. So it's actually hurting me materially when the ANC messes up. Whether I support the ANC or not, when they mess up, I'm paying for it. You know, uh, what financial anything was messed up by the putting up of those posters?
None.
And I say financial because I'm on the other side of the country, of course, and I'm not, yeah, and I'm not a black person who lives there or an Indian person who lives there or whatever that messaging, yeah, or however that message would have triggered a specific demographic. I'm separated from that. I feel nothing about that poster, but I believe it should have stayed up. And yeah, perhaps the DA has maybe learned its lesson here. The irony, though, and I don't know if you were going to bring this up, was how IFP, ran with the almost the exact same messaging that the DA did, and the same media I just mentioned, they were nowhere to be found. So the IFP
Yep.
is untouchable,
Yep. Yep.
but the DA, oh no, you can go after them. Actually, any minority party, you can go after them because I'm pretty sure if Al Jamaa had put out those posters, they would have gone after Al Jamaa, or even Gayton McKenzie's Patriotic Alliance. They would have gone after them as well.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more, Koketsu. I think the whole thing was just a toss up. Uh, I could understand from the woke people, and just because I understand doesn't mean I agree with them. Let me make that clear. But I could understand how they could see it that way. Um, but John's rebuttal on SABC when he was grilled by the media about the poster, he stood firm. He defended those posters, and he had a good defense for those posters. I agreed with him 100%. The
Yeah.
media was trying so hard to trip him up, to put words in his mouth, to make him out to be a racist. And he stood his ground valiantly. And then
Mm.
the next day, the DA takes the posters down. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes they could have done in this election, if not the biggest mistake they could have done in this election. They showed weakness, and it makes me wonder if you, as a party, are not standing together on certain topics or issues. How can I, as a potential voter, uh, you know, have confidence that you're going to defend whatever policies you have in Parliament, or the next day you're just going to change your mind? It shows tremendous amount of weakness. I don't know what the hell's going on with the DA. I think they, like I said, I think they made one of the biggest mistakes of this election was taking down those posters. Regardless of how you feel about it, I'm talking about principle here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking about principle. Like if you're gonna say you feel a certain way, the party stands on this in this stands with this issue in a certain way. This is our view, and then the next day you do the exact opposite of that. I mean, it just makes you look weak. Just makes you look weak. So yeah,
yeah.
but
True. I mean, compare that kind of behavior to Grunewald or Kenneth Mishwe even. They speak once and that's that. If you ask them to speak again, they're going to tell you the exact same thing. And if you come back a month from now, they're going to tell you the same thing. If you come back 5 years from now, they're going to tell you the exact same thing. So I'd like to see that sort of behavior from all parties. Because yeah, DA going back on what Steenhuisen's fiery speech was. That kind of they lose points there, and it kind of makes it seem like, okay, he's just politicking, of
yeah,
which the grandmaster of this sort of thing is Malema himself. In the year fifth, all decisions, policies, is always one Julius Malema monologue away from being the complete opposite.
yeah,
And I say monologue because you've seen his press conferences, right? The guy just stands there. To the left of him would be Godrich Gadi or someone. To the right of him would be Mbuyiseni or Floyd. And Julius is the only one speaking. His lackeys are just there nodding their head
yeah,
at every hot take, like,
yeah,
It's just Julius speaking, but he could, in his speech, decide to flip flop on something, and they're gonna say,
yeah. They don't care. Whatever the
yeah,
CIC says, they stay with it.
uh,
I just want to get to some of the comments here. Pet Zoo Film Crew is with us. Hello, Pet Zoo Film Crew. Potholes can let your teeth chip. There's mainly bills that can escalate from one bomb. So he's an interesting cat. Angus once again saying, "Well answered, gentlemen. Thank you. Why in the hell are we, the citizens of SA, not marching on a daily basis like they do overseas against the incompetent captured government?" Some people are marching every Saturday. Well, this past Saturday they didn't. But yeah, there are marches happening across South Africa. I believe there was one today in Parliament, actually, in Pretoria, sorry.
yeah,
But yeah, people are marching. It's just the mainstream media doesn't, they don't want to show that. They don't want to show people rising up against the ANC or anything like that because, yeah, captured. Dear Dallas, what's up, gents? Enjoying the chat. I think the ANC needs to lose just so they know it is possible. That's a good one. And then Angus asking, national elections are a numbers game, right? Which means the ANC will always win or not. I think any election is a numbers game. But I think one of the biggest, I don't want to say issues, one of the biggest challenges maybe for South Africa is that there's a large amount of people that register, right? Every that have registered to participate in elections, but there's a large amount of those registered people that have registered to be part of the elections that actually don't go to the voting ballot, and that I
yeah,
think is something that South Africans need to just, I don't know, get over, or I don't know why there's such a large amount of people that don't go vote. One, I've heard people say on the show, like, yeah, there's not a party that I relate to. Koketso mentioned earlier, you should find a party that you relate to. It's difficult. And flip, man, Koketso, how many parties are there? There's like over 300 or something.
there's about 503 registered political parties. About
500.
Yeah, it's north of 500.
What? Why?
About three of them are registered, I think, at the IEC or something like that. And then, yeah, typically what you find in like, yeah, in some key areas, you can find north of 30 on the actual ballot. So the
Wow.
503 won't necessarily, of course, be all campaigning everywhere in the country.
Yeah,
Someone will create a party and specifically target his community, for example.
I see. But
Yeah,
still, even just like having 30 parties on the ballot is going to be confusing for a lot of people.
yeah,
I think that's another challenge that South Africa has is just the amount of parties that exist here. It gets very confusing because and here's the thing that I'm noticing, paying more attention now to these elections. It divides the South African people even more
mm,
because you
mm,
have people arguing with each other. No, vote AACDP because they're X, Y, and Z, or vote Action SA because it's X, Y, and Z. Vote FF Plus because X, Y, and Z. DA X, Y, and Z. It the more parties you have, the more divided the people are, which also can, in some cases, benefit the ANC. In some
yeah.
cases,
No, absolutely. I mean, and this happens because people don't actually know, or let me say, most people, they don't actually know the policy positions of the parties. Hi, Deborah. But yeah, people don't know a lot of the actual policies of their parties. I make this example all the time with the ACDP. When I ask people, so why wouldn't you vote for ACDP? Have you considered the ACDP? And the response is always, no, absolutely not. Hell no. And then I say, why? And they can't put their finger on it. And if you go to the ACDP's website and you actually look at the policies on the website, again, I use them as an example because they've got it all laid down, very bullet pointy, straight to the point, no multiple pages. It's straight up. I think the only other party I saw which had a more straight up policy was the ZACP, you know. But yeah, the ACDP, they put it right out there. And I believe if most people look at it, they would agree with what the ACDP's policy is actually standing for. They're a bit more center than they are on the conservative side, on the Christian conservative side of things. But people don't know this. And then they'll say, okay, fine, I'm going to vote for EFF. How many people who vote for EFF has actually read the manifesto? Not wait for Julius to make a press conference and watch what he says in video, but go to their website and actually read it for yourself and see what they say. So people don't do that. And that's why having so many parties is to the detriment of, I think, the larger system at whole, because we kind of all know what the ANC is for, right? I mean, they're in national government. We know that they are for things like grants, BEE. They are for, yeah, a free market economy that isn't exactly free. It has to meet certain conditions. We know that they want to maintain their iron grip on labor. We know they're in bed with the unions, etc., etc. We know that. But if you ask a random person, what do you think the DA's relationship would be with unions if they were in power? They don't know that. That answer is right there in their manifestos and the likes, but people aren't willing to go read that. So it is to the detriment of the larger system. And to people who say that I can't find a party that identifies with me, no one's perfect. If you want a party that fully identifies with you, go start your own party, which some guys have done, which is why there's 503 parties in the first place. But no one is absolutely perfect.
yeah,
So you've got to pick your struggle. It's like, if you're going to buy a house, right, the good outweighs the bad. And that's what affects your decision making. Same thing with your clothes that you buy, same thing with the restaurant that you eat at, etc. You might like their main courses, but you don't like their desserts. Does that stop you from going to eat there? No, it doesn't. You have to compromise. And if you don't want to compromise, rather start your own party than sit at home and say, I'm not going to vote. Because if that's the case, a lot of blood, a lot has been given so that we can have the ability to go out there and vote. And each country, each society has their own unique story as to how they got there. Women didn't have the vote for quite a long time in the majority of the world as well. So all of these things, we've reached a point where we've kind of achieved an equality on the right spectrum. Let's now actually exercise these rights. But for people to sit back I don't want to say it's irresponsible, but it is quite unfair to those before us who've actually given a lot for us to be able to even have the choice of saying, I'm going to stay at home and sleep all day, or I'm going to actually go out there, stand in the queue, chat with some of my neighbors, buy the 10 Rand coffee someone's going to offer me while I'm standing in line, and go out there and vote.
Koketso, I like. Okay, firstly, like, beautifully said. I mean, you've said things that I've been trying to say on this channel for like the past few months. I'm like, you just said it perfectly. But I am gonna push back a little bit, and I'm gonna say no. At this point, at this point in time, and this point in South African history, it is irresponsible to not vote. I'm sorry. I don't care who wants to bash me for that. I don't care if you believe in democracy or not. Right now, as it stands, on the 18th of October, 2021, South Africa, GDP, crap. Unemployment rate, the highest it's ever been. Crime, skyrocketing. DNA
Petrol about
backlog.
to
Yeah,
reach record highs.
exactly. DNA backlog. All right, there's a DNA backlog of over 300,000 cases. The judiciary has been captured and held for ransom. The stadiums being built for 13 million rand, which don't even cost 1,000 rand, or 15 million rand. There is so much wrong with this country. Poverty has not gotten any better since the ANC has gotten into power. It's gotten worse, far worse. There are more people on social grants than there are employed. Let that sink in. All right. Tax base, small, tiny, decreasing. People are fleeing from this country. Right
And
now,
taking their skills with them.
exactly. Right
Skills we
now,
need to build.
exactly. No, 100%. And right now is the time for the South Africans that choose to stay here, for the South Africans that want a better future for their children. And I don't have kids, but I mean, I'm thinking about my niece or whoever, cousins, young ones, friends that have kids. For those future South Africans to have a better life, it is irresponsible for you not to go vote. To those people who in the last election registered but didn't go vote, shame on you, because your vote could have been the difference. And I'm serious. There was like I think a
Yeah.
3 million rand, 3 million rand, 3 million gap or something. Like, if I think the total amount was like 9 million or something people that didn't go vote, but the amount of people that would have needed to sway the vote to DA or whoever was just 3 million or something like that. It was like a small amount. Like, it was possible if everybody went
Yeah.
to go vote, it would have changed the landscape of South Africa. Maybe ANC would have been even a stronger hold. I don't know, but I think everybody should go vote in the municipal elections coming up and in the national elections. Don't be fooled. Like you just said, Koketsu, and that's the one part I really 100% agree with you. And I think people forget this, is that so many people have died. Whether you're for the ANC or not, people have sacrificed their lives so that you were able to go vote.
Yeah.
Take that how you will. And it's across, like Koketsu said, across the world, you know. So don't, and again, with putting it in context and telling you guys like the situation we're in, wake the fuck up and go fucking vote.
Yeah, and it's that easy. It's a public holiday in other parts of the world. It's not a public holiday. You go work, and then at lunchtime or whenever you head out, tell your boss I'm going to go vote, and you come back in an hour. With us, it's an actual public holiday. So what's your excuse? And if you're working, you can apply for a special vote to vote. I think the day before, the week before, you vote basically at the same time as guys who will be working on voting day, some media personnel who have to cover the voting, and prisoners, that sort of thing. You can go vote when they vote. So there are ways, and because it's such a fundamental right, your employer can't keep you from voting. That's actually illegal. Yeah. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So yeah, dude. Once again, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think you surmised it very well, and I hope that people listening to this will feel inspired to go. I know. Look, I know. Let's be honest. It's a bit of a hassle. You go the whole day, wait in a queue, just so you can put a few ticks on a piece of paper. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. 1st of November, I've registered. I'm gonna do it. It's the first time, by the way. I've it's the first time I'm gonna vote in ever since I've been living in South Africa, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'm very much looking forward to the national elections as well, where I get to vote. Because in a way, I'm fighting back. I'm putting money where my mouth is. I don't like the ANC.
Yeah.
I hate the ANC, and
Yeah.
I'm going to show it with my vote. That's how I look at
I'm
it.
just wondering what shirt you're going to wear on the day, because I believe there are rules around you're not allowed to wear political statements or regalia, etc. We know they don't get enforced though, but yeah, I'm wondering if you're going to be wearing what I think you'll be wearing,
Wait,
which
is this
in
is
which
this
case
is this is this too much? You think I'll get in trouble for this?
maybe not that. The other apparel.
Okay.
The other apparel from Rebel Store.
Hey, that's not a bad idea though.
You
I mean,
might just end
I'll.
up in the evening news or.
But is that really a thing? You're not allowed to wear. So I wouldn't be allowed to wear the Footsec ANC stuff. Like I wouldn't like they'd have a problem with that. Are you
Yeah, it's a
serious?
thing. You're not allowed. Just like you're not allowed to go out there with literally like wearing, that yellow shirt with the president of the days, that yellow ANC shirt, the one they give out.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
actually not allowed to wear that to the polling stations. But we know that this rule doesn't actually get enforced, but it is an actual rule.
So even a DA shirt wouldn't be allowed.
Even a DA shirt or you're actually not allowed.
So you have
But
to
we
be
know people
neutral.
do it.
Okay.
Or you can get away with it by painting your whole car DA. So
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
yeah, you can do that. But as for you, your person, you're not allowed to. But this rule doesn't get enforced.
Well, apparently, Deborah says maybe Joe will wear his Freemason apron. I'm not a Freemason, guys. I swear. See, I went to go visit a Freemason lodge. Now there's a conspiracy. I'm a Freemason. It's like I can't apparently visit without becoming a member. Um, yeah, just wear the Footsec shirt. No party affiliation. Yeah, well, that's the shirt that might get me in trouble. I don't know. I think you know what, Koketso.
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know the intricacies of this rule because it's not exactly very partisan. It's anti-partisan, but I don't know. Maybe legal minds out there can come and correct me, and maybe I'm talking nonsense. In which case, I
Dude.
take back everything I've just said.
Yeah,
But it's worth investigating.
But I'm a comedian, right? So I like to push the envelope. So I'm actually thinking of wearing that shirt to the voting station and just documenting what happens. Like
Yeah.
you've kind of given me an idea. I'm gonna give it some thought. I have to okay it with the wife first, though, because she's
Yeah,
the voice
there's
of
the
reason.
government, and then there's the government.
Yeah. If the wife says no, then it's a no. But I definitely want to try because that would be interesting, just to like document like the reactions and like I'm in a safe place. I think like
Yeah,
Western
yeah.
Cape, like DA run. I don't think I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
I might get in trouble if I was in the middle of like Soweto, maybe.
It depends where in Soweto. Soweto is so big that you literally have to compartmentalize it to, specific sections.
Okay.
So yeah, don't go to Dubai with that shit. Or Meadowlands or
I so badly want to wear it around Joburg,
yeah.
just to see people's reactions and stuff. But yeah,
You could go to Naturena with the shirt though, I'm pretty sure of that.
okay, I'll make some sales.
Yeah.
Deborah giving 140 Rand super chat saying, "Wear the apron, Joe. You know you want to." Thank you, Deborah, for the 140 rand super chat. Oh man. Cool. So we're in our final moments, man. An hour went by very quickly. For those of you just tuning in, I'm with Koketso, and we chatted about the upcoming elections and the craziness that has been happening. We talked about the 15 million rand stadium. We spoke about the DA posters. We spoke about just elections in general, if it's good to even go vote. So if you're just tuning in now, I highly recommend rewatching or going to the beginning of this episode and watching it from the beginning. For those of you who are interested and don't know Koketsu very well, I highly recommend going to follow him on Twitter. His Twitter page is linked in the description below. Please go check him out. Very like Koketsu, I think you're one of the most underrated Twitter tutorians. Twitters? I don't know. Twitters, I don't know. Twitter profiles out there.
Tweeters, I think.
Tweeters. Okay,
That's
sorry. Yeah,
yeah.
tweeters. That's where did I get tutorians from? I think you're one of the most underrated tweeters of Twitter in our sphere of political opinions, if I can put it that way. And I think a lot more people should follow you. Very much the voice of reason. But before we go, you had a story for me. Apparently, you've managed to piss off a VIP, if I can put it that way. Do you want to tell us the story?
Oh yeah, so about a year ago, I think, maybe a bit more than a year ago, our esteemed member of the Executive Council for Education in the Gauteng provincial government, Mr. Andrek Panyazali Sufi, commonly known by his other name, Panyaza. That's probably a story he can tell us. He actually blocked me on Twitter after I called him out for his nonsense. He is full of nonsense. I'll say it to his face even. But yeah, one of my main issues with him was how he created a policy where to put your child in school, grade 1 or grade 8, I believe, you have to go online and do a whole registration. And it's on a first come, first served basis. And it was such a mess. No one asked for such a system. He became MEC and introduced the system. On introduction, the system crashed, and every year you hear stories about how it crashes. But what this has created is, if you move to an area in Gauteng and you want to put your child in a public school, you literally have to, like a Black Friday shopper, sit there at midnight, hitting refresh on the page so you can register your child in school. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then also consider things like, you school, you know, that affected. Panyaza then decides that no, night and press F5 and first come, first serve. It doesn't matter where you live. You could live in one side of the province and register your child to, be a learner on the other side of town if it comes to that. Compounding this as well, no provision is given if if you have one child in the school, you can put in a second child. You want to put the other child in the same school so that brother and sister or brother and brother, etc., can be in the same school. There's usually a financial benefit to this as well, and that the second child has slightly less school fees, third child, etc., etc. So you lose out on all of these benefits because Banyaza wants you to, be alive at midnight so you can register your child. So I called him out on this, and he ended up with what he thought were strong words. They were weak. He ended up blocking me on Twitter, and I vowed at that moment that he will hear of me frequently. So he's one of the only few people I will unprovoked go after him. And I do, and I will, and I'll keep doing it. So yeah, Mr. Panyazali Sufi, you saw it fit enough to put your son in the same high school at the same time when I was in high school. But you won't let parents do the same without having to win a lottery, really, in terms of registering children. I will call you out on this. He's also a registered member of the South African Communist Party, by his words. So he's a commie as well. So yeah, I will never leave you alone, Mr. Lisufi.
Nice.
Even though you've blocked me, my tweets will make it to your screen in some form or fashion. Believe that.
Yeah, believe that. Man, I couldn't have said it better, Deborah. Go Koketso. Gert asking, hey Koketso, I see more of you on other streams than on Men Patreon. Yeah, no, look, before we move on, I do want to say, yes, well done, Koketso. And dude, really quick question. Are you ever going to run for president? Because the things you say, I'm like, damn, Koketsu for president, man. Come on, let's make it happen.
Yeah, you're far from being the first to actually ask me this. I have high school teachers who, you know, when you've been out of high school for a while, you bump into your teachers in public and you no longer call them Mrs. So and so. They insist you call them on a first name basis now. And they all say the same thing. So, what are you up to? I tell them, no, I'm an IT professional now. And they're like, yeah, but you should have got into politics or law or, And there's a reason I didn't go into politics. Firstly, I'm very technical and I'm very good with computers. That's the one thing. But the reason I can't run for office, or maybe I'll change my mind. But one of the reasons I can't is if you haven't heard it by now, I have the wrong accent. So
Come on, man. That's not
I
true.
have the wrong accent. I have the wrong surname. I live in Edenvale. I don't have struggle credentials. I didn't. I'm not from a township area. I can't even bank on my blackness either. So to succeed with the number of votes in South Africa, I don't actually meet the criteria. Sadly, unfortunately.
Maybe if you just go to
So
prison, then it's fine.
hey, I mean, it's working out for Gayton and Kenzie and Kenny Kunene with the Patriotic Alliance. So,
No, I'm kidding. Look, those excuses are not excuses. I not that I'm trying to, like, I don't want to make it sound like, oh no, you must go run for president. I'm just saying. I think, like I said earlier, man, politics is a dirty game. It really is. I've gotten to know quite a few politicians this past year, and the stories they tell me off the record is yeah, it's quite scary with some of the stuff that happens, and I'll never reveal any of the stories without their permission. But anybody who has a politician as a friend will know anyway. And yeah, I don't know. On the one hand, I'm like, yeah, Koketsu for president, but on the other hand, I'm like, I don't want you to die. Like,
yeah,
and
that's
then
the other thing as
yeah,
well. Like
like
I sleep very well at night.
yeah,
So
exactly. Who knows? Maybe in a different climate of South Africa, political climates, maybe in a different political climate where the ANC isn't in power. Maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you're still young. I mean, flip, man. Who knows? Maybe you'll run for president, and I'll be in your office as, like, I don't know, the
Minister of Arts and Culture.
yes. Cool. I want 100,000 rand a month salary, which is peanuts. Come on, let's be honest. And
Hey, look, if I become president, the very first thing I'm going to do is cut down the executive to 10 ministers.
see, you're saying all the right things, man. Like right now, people are like, "Where can I vote for Koketso?" That's what people are saying right now. Like,
Ah,
all right. Guys, we are over the hour, so I do have to go, unfortunately. But Koketso, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. And like I said before, man, you are welcome back anytime. And I think we will have a nice chat again. Maybe we can have you back on after the elections, after we see the results, and we can dissect what's happened and see if some of your predictions held true.
this should be fun.
All right, Koketsu, is there anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
Yeah, guys, you never compromise your principles to align with the promises of someone who doesn't even know you exist. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. The values that brought you to where you are, the values you've learned, those will carry you through to the rest of your life. You've learned lessons that no one can take away from you. Never put those on the line because you are pandering to the political promises of someone who, like I said, doesn't know you exist. It's absolutely not worth it. It's not the kind of life you want to leave behind for those who you are going to procreate. Yeah, it's absolutely not worth it. At the end of the day, if you can leave the world better off than you left it, that's all the better. And if you can't, don't assume that the people you vote for will either. If they're not worth your vote, then don't give them your vote. It's that simple.
Fantastic. Couldn't have said it better and spoken like a true historian. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this was Koketso with me on the Joe Emilio Show. I'll be back tomorrow evening for a solo stream, so if you guys want to have a nice chat with me and ask me anything you like and anything I can answer, I will. I do have some things to talk to you guys about, so please join me tomorrow evening at about 8 p.m. for a solo stream. I'll be back Wednesday evening as well with France Cronier from Center for Risk Analysis, IRR.
Center for Risk Analysis.
Yes. We're going to be chatting about the future of South Africa, so please do join me for a very interesting conversation on that one. And then, I'll be here all week. So, ladies and gentlemen, and just so you know as well, Koketsu, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. Gwen, thank you. That's embarrassing. Gwen will be joining me on Friday evening, ladies and gentlemen. So she is the head of policy in the DA, and I'm going to ask her a lot about the policies of the DA. So if you're interested in that, please tune in on Friday evening. Other than that, Koketsu, once again, thank you so much for joining me. Stay on the line. And everybody else, if I don't see you then, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.